We're recording. Hi, Kens.
Hi, Ingrid. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. How about you?
Hanging in there as well.
Groovy. Let's get right to it. So,
Yes.
we came on and we're recording this little, hopefully short video to help people comprehend that they have a resource, maybe an additional resource to help them with resources
Right.
if they are interested in sovereignty, if they are interested in freedom, if they are interested in a spiritual psychosocial development
Hmm.
of their body, mind, spirit, and soul. If they love this planet and they want to participate and they want loving communities of people around them, where our children are safe and where we are safe to fully express ourselves um, from a place of honor.
Right. Absolutely.
So how about we just share with folks a little bit about who you are and who I am so they get a sense of where we're coming from in addition to what was just shared. So what do you want to share about yourself with people?
Okay. So I spent most of my life in the Matrix, which is the society that we have all come to believe is normal. I have a very strong financial background, also working for government agencies on a state level. Um, I was a chief financial officer for a state hospital, for instance, for a couple of years. I was a regional manager for another agency. And I also have an extensive background in accounts receivable, in management, all those things that you think of when you think of normal, essentially normal. In 2021, at the end, I walked away from a career working for the state. I was a manager, and I there was no way that I was going to let anybody tell me that I had to take any form of mandated medicine. And it was the principle of the idea that anybody would think that they could. No one has that right. And so sovereignty was really a very important concept for me in 2021. I walked away from my entire career, and then I was embarking upon this enormous quest to really delve into and integrate all of my spirituality, which up to that point, I was living two lives. I had over here raising a child, owning a home, earning money, focusing on advancement. And over here was going to spend a weekend laying on the floor with 60 other people, having four Buddhist monks chanting over us for 4 hours straight at a time, that sort of thing, as well as studying and learning all about how do I how do I expand into these, an actual practice of helping people to heal. Because the other thing that I was aware of was also that in the course of my life's work up to that point, working in the matrix, I was actually not helping. I was part of a system that we all, we're all in it at some point, but I was part of a system that wasn't actually actively helping, and it was actively harming, which the COVID era really brought out. And so that was my evolution. I discovered everything about assembly one day, right in the middle of all of this, while I was in the process of getting ready to be fired. Um, Discovered Anna von Reitz, discovered her work, very comprehensive exploration into the fraud that has essentially been going on for, now we're talking almost 2 centuries, and the takeover of entities masquerading as the government, when the reality is they're government service contractors, and the original government is supposed to be the system of checks and balances to keep them in check. And the fact is that that checks and balances has not been going on for a very long time, and most people don't even know about it. And so hence they were able to embark upon a tirade of tyranny, essentially, a tirade of tyranny. So that was how, and that kind of starts the conversation as to how we met.
Okay,
So now your turn.
my turn. Okay. Oh. So you and I come from very different backgrounds and we have different outlooks on life and we actually follow different people. We have some disagreements about what we believe and who we follow. And
Yes.
mostly that has spurned great conversation and a lot of learning between us. And yeah, so I'm just gonna say that first.
Yeah.
I
And I appreciate and I appreciate all of our discussions because they are very, very enlightening.
me too. Me too. It's helped in a lot of ways. It's helped so much. So I am first generation American, and English is not my first language. I grew up bilingual and bicultural. Um, and I also grew up with an understanding and an experience of being multidimensional. I My earliest memories are of being on craft, um, and interacting with my light family, and having UFO experiences and metaphysical experiences. There was poltergeist activity happening in the house that I grew up in. Um, I grew up talking about my dreams. My family encouraged it. We all talked about our dreams. But there was a lot of dark energy and repressive energy. Um, I want to say in the periphery, but not really in the periphery. I was more in the periphery of what was happening,
Yeah.
because I was getting support. And as I grew up, a lot of that support came from outside of the house. Even though my family loved one another, it was really hard. And the third dimension is not something, functioning within the matrix has never been easy for me. It's never been something that has come naturally. It's always humans have always been like, why on earth would you do that to one another? Why on our earth would you treat each other this way? Why on earth would you think that? Why would you do that? Um, in terms of dynamics, interaction, motivations, humans have just always been very challenging for me. And so have always been much more comfortable um, with the non-physical. Um, there was a time in my life when I was so angry and upset with what I saw as significant injustice, and with just unconsciousness, blatant unconsciousness, that my anger started to draw in a darkness that I actually needed help getting out of. And so I, thank goodness, thank God, thank God, had assistance. I was helped by adults that felt like it was a spiritual calling to assist me. Um,
Mhm.
I checked out churches and Christian groups that all always felt like cults to me. So I only went so far with those groups. I was mostly a loner.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'll just jump fast forward. Um, Eventually, what I did was become uh, a sign language interpreter. So I am a sign language interpreter. And then I also, years later, became a licensed massage therapist. I recently have let that license lapse. I became a Reiki master teacher and a biofield tuner, a certified biofield tuner, level 3 with Eileen McCusick. And then I found myself to a number of different spiritual groups. Um, and when 2019 came around, 2017, my father passed. For me, that was the end of pretty significant soul contracts. And I
Mhm.
had a number of um, kind of mind-blowing experiences with spirit. I've had these kind of experiences my whole life, but nothing like when my father passed. And then I found a community of spiritually minded people who helped me work through that. And and then my mom passed, and I had another series of experiences, and then all had the experience that led us to join the spiritually minded group that you and I connected in, that was international and had a
Yes.
state chapter. So you and I met on the state chapter, and I remember, if I could for just a minute, being really young, and my father trying to teach us all, to teach the kids about taxes. And I remember saying to him, "This doesn't apply to me." And he flew into a rage and was like, "What do you mean it doesn't apply to you? Of course it applies.
Of course.
It applies to everybody." And I was like,
He
"No,
flew into a rage.
no, it doesn't apply to me. I don't know how I know that, but it doesn't apply to me. And I can't explain how I know what I know. I just
Mm,
know that it doesn't apply to me." And so there was always, as an independent contractor, it was always a struggle for me. Taxes were
mhm.
always a struggle for me, and I won't get into it more right now. But suffice it to say, when you and I met, I was like, "Is there anybody that knows anything about freedom and sovereignty?" And you were like, "Me."
Our very first meeting, I opened my mouth and it all fell out.
Right. And
Right,
then it was, Providence, that grace, I don't know, that not only were we in the same state, but we were in the same county,
right,
half hour away from one another. And then you came over. I had a gathering at my house, and you came over, and we started our paperwork, and it made so much sense to me. It made so
right,
much sense to me, and I started my paperwork, and I never really looked back because it was really helpful to me. Now, suffice it to say, I started my paperwork, which means what that implies is that I am an American state national. I'm a card carrying, credentialed American state national. I am involved in my state's assembly. I sit on several committees. I go to meetings. I don't go to every single meeting because life happens, but I go to as
right,
many as I possibly can, and I try to stay active. And in a large way, I feel like no matter how much I study and how much I try to learn, I don't quite know it all. And here is the crux of why I shared what I shared about me. And there's a little bit more that I want to share. Because there is so much required in order to leave the matrix that has
right.
been created.
It's right.
That-
The webbing is so thick and
Yes.
multi-layered that yeah,
Anna
just
Anna
yeah,
recently shared, she said this in such a way that was so helpful. She was like, "The reason that you can't just claim that you're free and sovereign and just say it is because unless you are incredibly savvy with lawful language, and you have studied Black's Law Dictionary back and
right.
forth, and you are incredibly gifted at rhetoric,
Mhm.
and you can talk your way out of a lot, you're probably going to end up in hot water if you are somebody who is belligerent or angry with
Right.
what has been
Or
done,
even just doesn't
or
know.
doesn't
Right.
comprehend, right? Or mistakenly, you can very easily
Yeah,
mistakenly get yourself out of off the jurisdiction of land and soil, which is what you're on as an American state national when you've done your paperwork,
that's
and
right.
mistakenly get yourself into hot water in their water jurisdiction and their
Right.
air jurisdiction and the municipal jurisdiction.
Yep.
And what that means, we're going to unfold a little bit later, but just in this introductory video where we tried to keep things brief, there's a lot there. And Anna said, because when you were a baby and your mom signed your birth certificate, they took you off the land and soil, and they
Mhm.
forced you through the water into air via contracts.
Yep.
Your mom signed her name. She didn't know it, but she signed her name. And so, as an adult, when you recognize that, you can claim fraud. right?
Yes,
That was fraud because
it
your mom
was.
didn't know what she was doing and you were a baby and you didn't realize it. So you kind of just happened on into life doing things in the way that you've been told to do things. You've been playing in the adult world in the way that you've been shown and told that you're supposed to,
Yeah.
but it's all based in fraud. And so
Hmm.
that changes things dramatically because fraud vitiates contract.
Right.
In order to extract yourself, you can't just know about it. You have to do the paperwork to get yourself out of that situation. That's
Well,
how it's
right.
explained.
Hmm.
So, what I want to say is who did this? How did they do it? There's a little bit more going on than just the coup that happened in 1871. The fact that America is not the U.S. corporation. They're not the same thing. There are two countries running simultaneously, but it's not actually a country, it's a corporation. And
Right.
you don't even know that. And so to uncover that and do a deep dive into what that means, to comprehend the arena, the political arena that's playing out right now, we have to explore. I mean, we could just in the third dimension explore American state nationalism, contracts, paperwork, the evildoers that took over our country and uh, bound us up with foreign invaders and created a system of taxation that violated our original constitution. We can stay in the third dimension to explain that, but it goes so much deeper. It is multidimensional and
Hmm.
it is ancient and it's related to ETs. It's related to aliens. It's related to demons. It's related to to a war of good and evil.
Yeah.
And and what's most important to comprehend is that the reason all these things have happened is because we are so amazing. We have been created by an amazing, mind-blowing, creative being that is multidimensional, that can be explained through science as an intelligence, as an intelligent energy, and it is attempted to be explained as through religions as one being. But that one being, I believe, you don't have to think the way that I do. You get to think whatever you want to think. But I believe is the foundational thing that they're searching for with CERN. Recently, I listened to somebody call it God particle, right? This intelligent, innate intelligence of the universe. I've been calling it plasma, right? This is the plasma that makes up everything. Um,
Hmm.
because I also do a lot of talking about the difference between and the transition of understanding, of overstanding, of understanding, of comprehending that we don't live in a Newtonian universe,
Right.
a
That's
universe of
linear.
solid linear reality.
Hmm.
We live in a multidimensional, beyond quantum particle and wave. We live in a plasmic universe where God is the substance of everything.
Creation. Right. Pure
Creation, right?
creation.
We are one being. And
Hmm.
so to comprehend that and to see God in each other's eyes across disagreement and across when someone does something that violates some really simple, basic, universal laws of freedom, free will, and do no harm.
Yep.
So, do no harm is not a universal law. That's a human law that I firmly believe in. Keeping our children safe is something that I believe needs to be codified
Yep.
because people have strayed so far from creative love that they believe themselves separate from God. And when you're separate from God, you need life force. And if you don't
Right.
believe you're connected to life force, if you truly believe that life force is not inside you and that you're not divine, then you believe you have to take it away from someone else and something else. And that is an ancient war of good and evil that has come to this planet very, very, very long time ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that's playing out. in our country, on the world stage, in, on, and around the planet, in our solar system, in our galaxy. It is very real. And I know that this can push buttons of patriots, of Christian patriots. And I am asking you to suspend, I am asking you to suspend a view of God that is limited to this planet. I am asking you to comprehend that God is more amazing than you could possibly have imagined, and that God has created more diversity in the galaxy and in the cosmoses, because there's more than one. In the dimensions and in the densities, there is more than one, and we need a comprehension, a basic comprehension of science and spirituality, of understanding yourself as a souled being. Your body has a soul. Your soul, your soul is so important that when you transition out of this body, the body loses weight. Okay? Your consciousness helps create this body and everything in existence. And it's your consciousness that is divinely connected to the creator. And that's what I wanted to create a channel for with you, so that we can have conversation that spans everything from the Newtonian third dimensional world through the quantum world and miracles,
Yeah.
miracles of healing, miracles of creation, miracles of what we are capable of. 95% of our DNA is not junk.
Right.
It's been turned off on purpose, right? There's a reason that Jesus said, as I do, so shall you, and more.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason for that. Let's look at these beings. Let's look at all of that and explore without limitation and fear, because fear keeps you trapped. It's why we saw what happened when you and I first met and connected, why that played out on the world stage, because the small group of predators, right? And I want to thank Elena Denon for coming up with that term. It's true. Not that many people haven't used that term, but she's coined it to say, stop referring to them as elites.
Right. They're
They are
predators.
predators, and
Yep.
they have been preying on the human species and on other species in the galaxy for a very long time. And so my beliefs about that and your beliefs about that are they differ a little bit, but what we can agree upon is that humans are used as a food source, energetic,
Yeah.
and on an energetic level and on a physical level. And we have the ability to stop it when we comprehend our divinity, when we comprehend that God is holding us, we're supported beyond our wildest expectations. There are so many more of us that call ourselves star seeds that have come here to assist humans in waking up to their divine potential, to our divine potential, that these human bodies are phenomenal. So
Yeah.
when not operating from fear, from the frontal lobe, right? That fear that keeps us trapped and not able to think clearly, or
Okay.
from a place of understanding consequence and thinking down the road, it keeps us reactive and in the reptilian part of the brain. This is on purpose.
It's that's what I was going to say. It's actually not the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes are when you're consciously choosing. But when the reptile brain is activated, your instincts are taking over, and it's all about survival.
Survival.
It's
Yeah.
all about the need to be accepted in society, because think back to the original reptile brain. Your survival was dependent upon your ability to remain within the protection of the group. And so that has been capitalized upon to help advance this illusion so that people continue to be stuck. And so part of we're here to break the matrix. And interestingly, that was a video, remember, that we did a couple years ago to introduce the concept of sovereignty and to hopefully educate people. And what did we call it? Breaking the matrix. So yes, now we have the ability, because we're recording this, we can edit if we like, if we went on and on about something that was awful. So, and you are able to do that. Okay. So I feel like I would like to re-record my intro because I feel like I was way too
Aw.
broad and I wasn't. And I also realized that I need to look right at the little thing up here because I'm looking at, which is the camera, and I mostly have been looking down at your face on my screen.
It's
And so
okay.
I know that I need to
It's
like
not
change.
looking, from my perspective, it's not looking like that.
All right, all
You're
right.
looking at the
So
camera,
do you think that
but
intro was okay?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine, but if we could also just say for the recording that um all of that and with regards to ETs, right? Acknowledging the collusion with governments, the collusion that happened with the Nazis, the collusion that happened with Eisenhower's with the not Eisenhower, but with the people in his
In his group, yeah. His administration.
thank you, that was the word that was failing me, in his administration. What was happening behind his back was a collusion with gray aliens, and there are a lot of star seeds talking online about being hybridized and having babies and buying hook line and sinker this idea that they are us in the future and they've come back to fix some genetic anomalies and so they need the eggs of women. This is not true. I don't believe this is true. I believe the grays are the bad guys. Though there are hundreds of types of grays, I'm talking about the Zeta Reticuli, the little grays that are basically automatons and are working for a more nefarious group like reptilians, though not all reptilians, in the same way that there is a variety of human Terrans, there are a variety of any species that you're looking at and or considering. And so
Right.
hence the importance of developing an ability to feel how people feel to you, not just
Mhm.
operating from your head and thinking what you think about people, but
And listening to words,
how do people make you feel?
but also
What's the frequency? What's the underlying resonance of
mm,
interaction with people? What does your intuition say? These are things that we really need to develop to be able to catch when the wool might be being pulled over our eyes. So,
right, right. And the
yeah.
other thing too, like what I shared with you when we were talking, because I'm a hypnotist, I have been recognizing hypnotic language patterns that are being used by the media, by government spokespeople, entertainment. It's out there and it's and as I referred to the reptilian brain before, our need to be accepted within society, it is capitalizing upon that human need and using hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming to open the door essentially. And so when you work with, like, having, for me, having, I didn't realize this before, but now that I have been doing hypnosis and NLP myself and I did a formal study, now I see it. And whereas I knew that there was some sort of something going on, mind control was happening, but I didn't realize what it was until now. And so once you know something, you can never unknow it. And so part of our goal in this channel is to help people to recognize these different things which point to patterns of deliberate manipulation, or maybe not so deliberate, although I that's my personal opinion. I think everything happens for a reason. I don't think that people typically, especially on the political stage and in the media and in the entertainment, got there just because of providence. I think that there's more to it. So I tend to see and I look for patterns. And so that's another thing we're going to talk about, pointing out so that once people can see that, they'll be able to recognize it over there as well and over there. And to be more informed allows you to become more conscious, and then you can make a choice, a deliberate choice for yourself, because it's all about choice. And that's the other reason why we're here, I believe, is that we're here to make choices which will assist our evolutionary growth, and also recognizing that our choices are not done in a vacuum, that it affects other people, it affects other living things, and all of that is very important to be doing more consciously.
Mhm. Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to stop recording.